Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About on Bladesboy videos. What is Let's Talk About? Well, basically I take a piece of information or popular rumours as such and lay them on tape, talk about them and try and get a conversation with you guys, preferably in the comments section below. So in today's show I'm going to talk about Hollywood's newfound culture in creating movie universes. So when we talk about canon, what do we mean? Well, the definition of canon, in specific biblical canon, is a collection or list of sacred books accepted as genuine. So what does that mean for movies? Basically, it's a list of movies that work together in the same universe. For example, we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where the effects that the Iron Man solo movies have can seep through to the Captain America movies, to the Thor movies, and they all join together in the Avengers movies. DC, now they call theirs a DC Expanded Universe, and what that is exactly the same, apart from we so far only have one movie of the DCEU. This month, when you're watching this, maybe it's already come out, we have the second Batman vs Superman, and then Suicide Squad and so on and so forth. They have this great list. Star Wars is another one. However, when Star Wars was bought, or more when Lucasfilm, who owns Star Wars and Indiana Jones, when they were bought by Disney, Disney decided to say, look, this is canon. What that means is all the fan fiction, all the stories that weren't really monitored as fact are now disregarded, and it is, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened to build our universe. So Marvel is kind of easy because they have the source material. The same can be said for DC. But what we're finding now in Hollywood is that the Marvel universe and the Star Wars, even though there's only one movie, but there also are a couple of books and TV series, that they are so financially beneficial. They make such a profit. Now, why do they make a profit? It's because we are already invested in the story. What we find in the past is when we become invested in a characters or movie, they will make a sequel, and then we'll continue to be invested, and then by the third, fourth, fifth, we're like, how many times can you flog a dead horse, right? So, with creating a cinematic universe, what this allows us to do is to watch different stories about different characters that have an effect on the characters we have seen. We become emotionally invested in the universe of different stories rather than the continuation of one story. Because of this, we found that Universal are creating what they're going to call the Monsters movie universe, which includes Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, all those type of monsters in one cohesive universe where they all affect each other. Warner Brothers is also creating their second universe after the DCEU with Godzilla and King Kong and those monsters, and maybe moving on to Mothra and all those sort of mythical type beasts that exist within that universe, or those stories, or those comic books, or basically the source material, and to intertwine them together. But what's the point? Why can't we just have single films? Well, as I mentioned before, sequels get pretty tiring, especially when you're dragging the same storylines and story points over 3, 4, 5 films, because we've seen it. We need something new. We need new characters to further the old characters. We need new storylines which build upon the last storylines but don't have to be the same. It also helps to create a fan base. So, for example, you may have, I'm just going to pick one out at random, I'm going to say Rush Hour. Okay, so Rush Hour 1 has a fan base. Rush Hour 2, I prefer that film a little more. I think it's got a little bit of a bigger fan base. Now Rush Hour 3, that fan base starts to trickle down and getting a bit tired of going through the same old beats. Instead, with a movie universe, you can create an all new story, an all new movie, but that exists after, before, or alongside the movie that you've already seen. Therefore, the fans of the movie you've already seen are then attracted to this movie, along with this movie creating its own fans that can go back and go, oh, this happened, this is why this happened in this movie, it's because it trickled through from this movie, because it exists in the same universe. The question is, will it work over the test of time? So far we've seen Marvel, and you know, here is the universe so far, and here's the future universe. And it's pretty solid. Yeah, there are some bad movies, there are some awesome movies, and there are some borderline okay movies. But when you're watching the movies come together, you feel obliged to watch the history. These movies become history of the universe. They are tried and tested as well. With DC and Marvel, it's a little difficult because they have a huge history of source material within comic books, whereas with Star Wars, that pretty much is founded by fan fiction to a point. Yes, George Lucas created the first film. Yes, George Lucas produced the next two. But what happened then to give us all these books, these comic books, these toys, these games that all are classed as canon? There are some that aren't classed as canon, and they've been described as much. Here, there's the canon guide. So, my question here is, really, will we get bored of no longer having original movies that just stand alone? And how will it impact standalone movies? Will Hollywood start to just produce movies that have existing movies behind them, you know, and will that have a negative effect on the movies that we get? Well, the key thing here is, I think, you have to go off source material. Without the source material of the likes of Marvel and DC, there's a very good chance that a couple of bad writers and a couple of bad movies can plummet the older movies into an abyss, and we'll lose those movies because they've been tainted by what happens. One of the great things that Marvel do, and one of the great things that Star Wars is now doing, which I'm going to keep referring to these as I have in the video, and it's simply because they are the leaders. They are the best universes out there right now. They're the most successful financially, most successful fan base, and they have the best movies in their genres. But can it exist for newly found movies? And obviously Godzilla, King Kong, Frankenstein, Dracula, all those movies, they do have a fan base which can carry them, and they have origin stories and source material. My worry personally is, where does it end? Will we start to see James Bond popping up in Mission Impossible? Probably not. But do you know what I'm hinting at? Like, Jason Bourne and Ethan Hunt end up on a mission together because, oh, this is what works. This is what the fans want. No, what the fans want is a cohesive plot where different movies and different standalone stories work to a bigger end. I'm up for it, really, but I'm up for it where the source material deserves it. Not just because, let's just chuck it all in, we'll love it. No, we won't. We won't. We'll love it when it's good, when it's well thought out, and when there is a cohesive plan between them. There is an end goal. Now, once you've reached that end goal, there's nothing to say from that point. There's end goal number 2, end goal number 3, like with Marvel, and they have the Phase 1, which had an end goal of the Avengers, and Phase 2, which had a weaker end goal of Age of Ultron. But then Phase 3, where we have Infinity Wars, and we get to see what these stones are really capable of. That stuff's exciting. I've seen the Mind Stone, I've seen them, and to see them all come together in this huge finale, which obviously will lead on to Phase 4, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. And to a point, I kind of hope that the cinematic universes are a success, because I like to see stories expand, but I just hope they don't balls it up, which they have done so many times. There's so many sequels that are just poor. There are so many spin-offs that are just poor. We may finally move away from sequels and reboots. Let's face it, reboots was the last Hollywood culture. Let's get a movie that was great once a time and let's reboot it and give it back and they'll fucking love it. And then we watch it and we're like, what the hell is this piece of rubbish? Cool, so that was my point on the new Canon culture. I hope I answered some questions that you may have had on Canon or cinematic universes, and I hope I've raised some topics and discussion. Let's have a chat. These videos are called Let's Talk About. Let's talk about it. I raise a topic and we talk about it. Please remember to subscribe to my channel for more movie reviews, more Let's Talk About. I've got loads of ideas coming. I'm hoping to eventually have a green screen up here as my studio grows and we can start experimenting, and give me suggestions on what you want to see as well, because I'm making this for you. I'm making it for me because I love to do it, but I'm making it for you because I want you to watch it. So yeah, subscribe, like my video if you like the video. If you don't like the video, don't like the video. You know how that goes. Comment, please comment. I'm also just going to quickly plug my most recent movie talk where I reviewed the movies that came out last weekend. They were The Other Side of the Door, that was a bit iffy. Hail Caesar, surprisingly, I really like that movie. Some bad points, some good points. Find out more just here. And the last film I did was London Has Fallen. Is it the next Die Hard? No. Is it worth watching? If you like stupid dumb action movies. But the review is definitely worth watching. Check it below. As always, you've been awesome. I hope I've been awesome. And until next time, guys, see you later.